Here's a few things that I'd like an apology for.
Why does Angie have a scroll?
You're suggesting that I'm involved in organized crime.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
Number 2, encouraging someone to sue me. And
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 5, Episode 1. And when I tell you guys, I am so excited that SLC is back.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Mary M. Cosby, I know that you and I have had a very rocky relationship since you've been on this show, but I'm going to say it right now. I enjoyed you from beginning, middle, and end, and I'm so happy that you're back as full-time because say what you want, but this show does need Mary. Now, this is going to be the first and only time that I ever say Monica's name. But Monica, the delusions of you to think that this show was not going to succeed without you is comical. This premiere episode showed that they don't need you at all. And here's some tea for y'all if you missed it in my live with Kempire the other day. Shout out to Kempire. But when I was out and about at the Real Housewives of New York premiere party last week, I was talking to some producers and I mentioned how SLC was amazing. And I mentioned Monica. And they said out their mouths that, yeah, what she did last year was too much and it went way too far. And her saying to the press that the show is going to flop without her, they didn't like that. They don't plan on calling Monica anytime soon. And I got a little tiny bit of OCT for y'all too. And stay tuned for that recap. But y'all, SLC ate and left no crumbs. And without further ado, let's just jump right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. Y'all need to listen to what I'm saying. Bravo is prepping SLC to be the #1 franchise because the first few minutes of this episode, I said, wait, what? I was gagged. It was a full-blown production. It was definitely shot like it was a movie. We hear Heather's voice as the narrator, and she says that when you sign up for a reality show, you're signing up to be exposed, and how they allow people in their homes every single day. And just the fact that they started off with Heather and you hear her voice in the background, it really makes you think about how Heather is definitely one of the anchors of this show. So we start things off with Lisa Barlow. And when I tell y'all, one thing that I love about SLC is imitating Lisa's voice. One of the highlights of the season. But anyhow, Lisa arrives with her sister-in-law and they're at this ranch. It's the day of her Besos party. So she says that the Besos party's for all of her girlfriends in honor of Valentine's Day. So we see Lisa talking to her event coordinator. They're moving things around. And I have to say that the venue was really pretty, the open bars, along with her Vita tequila on display, because one thing about Lisa is going to always have that product placement. And a side note, did anybody catch that Wendy's ad that she was doing at the beginning of the episode? I said, you better get your coin. That is how you take advantage of the platform that's been given to you. We cut to Lisa in her confessional, and she says, last year wasn't the easiest. It was so much turmoil with my friends. It was the worst that we've ever gone through it. But it did bring us closer together. So now we cut to a flashback scene from 2 weeks earlier. And it's a scene with Lisa, Heather, and Angie K talking about Lisa's party. Now, what I loved about how this episode was shot, we already started at Lisa's party. We didn't have to wait for the build-up because all throughout the episode, we kept seeing the flashback scenes with the other ladies. So Lisa's going on to Heather and Angie K that she's unsure about inviting Whitney. So she says, I'm on the fence about Whitney because she did a podcast about me. She called me the villain. She was really, really rude about me, and I have to figure it out. Now, we all know for the sake of this show and for the sake of the storylines, Lisa is going to invite Whitney. And we do hear what Whitney said about Lisa. Whitney said that all Lisa cares about is being right, and there is some truth to that, but Whitney, let's not act like you're innocent because, Whitney, you have a strange relationship with telling the truth. So I don't really feel like you have grounds to talk about anybody when you're always exaggerating or putting extra sauce on a story. But again, we'll talk about that later on, because the way the girls tag teamed you at that dinner table had me screaming. So now we jump right back into present day, the day of Lisa's party, and we see Lisa's friends arriving. So we now see Mary and Angie K arrive, and they are now best friends. Now, remember last season, Mary could not stand Angie K, and now they're like this. And we cut to Mary's confessional, and she says life is weird, but Angie K gained her trust. And Angie K says, who would have thought? It went from who's Angie to now we're good friends. And it all started when I told her that she had lipstick on her teeth at the reunion last year. Mary invited her to Kathy Hilton's Christmas party. She was her +1. They have matching Birkins. And I'm not going to hold you, I love this newfound friendship, because it actually feels real, it feels genuine. And also, I don't think that Mary is somebody who's ever had a lot of friends, much less real friends. So I think that she's also happy that she finally has a friend now. And I think it's definitely softened her up. But I love this whole Mary and Angie K duo. I am here for it. And Miss Mary, let me give you your 10s right now before I forget. Because when you walked in with that Dolce & Gabbana jacket, I said, Mary, stop playing with me. Your stylist is on point. That Dolce & Gabbana jacket had me gagged. I said, you ate that right on up. I said, oh, I need that. And then the red Birkin to top it off, I said, oh, absolutely. So now we see Heather arrive with her friend Brittany. And mind you, Brittany is going to be the newest friend of. So anyhow, Heather comes in. She has this sexy latex red dress on, has hearts all over, and Heather looked good. I said, come through. Now y'all know that 2 weeks ago, I was at the SLC premiere party, and Lisa, Meredith, and Heather were there. Now I had met them all at BravoCon prior, so seeing them again was like a reunion of sorts. So anyhow, when I tell you that in person, Heather is snatched. I kept mistaking her for Whitney. I mean, Heather is like cheekbones, what? Cut. Waist. I was like, girl, where is it? Like, what waist? The Ozempic was Ozempic-ing, okay? So anyhow, Heather walks over to everybody, giving them hugs. She walks over to Mary and Angie K at the bar, and the first thing out of Mary's mouth is, oh my gosh, you look pretty and thin. So Heather's like, well, thank you, 25 pounds down. And I can't believe that I'm going from being called inbred to now pretty and thin, the start of a good relationship. I still can't get over the fact that Mary really called that lady inbred on national TV and said it with a straight face. That's really not funny, but you just have to laugh because only Mary. So now we see Lisa's new friend Bronwyn arrive, and Bronwyn is the newest full-time cast member, and it seems like she has a very interesting backstory. So she arrives in that fabulous and very iconic YSL heart jacket that Rihanna wore a few years ago. She's in that. So we now cut to Lisa and her confessional, and Lisa says, I met Bronwyn about 7 years ago. We were both at Nordstrom, and she was picking out something, and I was just looking at her, and she just looked at me like, what are you doing here? Why is this homeless girl talking to me? And I said, wait, you wanted to be friends with somebody who looked down on you? Are you serious? And then we see Bronwyn in her confessional, and she says, Lisa always says that I swatted her away, and that does sound like me. And I said, but the gag is, you were looking down on somebody who you eventually needed to help you get on this show. Because it wasn't lost on me when Lisa said, a few years ago, we reconnected and we became close again. And I said, I'm sure that Bronwyn did become close to you when she saw that you were on that show, and she also wanted to be on this show too. That's why you should never look down on people in life, because the way the tables always turn, the way things always change, the person that's on top today can be down tomorrow, and the person that's down today can be up tomorrow. But Bronwyn, I'm not going to hold that against you for the rest of the season, okay? This is your first episode, so I'm gonna give you a chance and make my final assessment of how I feel about you in episode 5. But we do find out more about Bronwyn because we see a scene from 5 days earlier where her and Lisa met up for lunch. Now, Bronwyn girl, I understand that you're very eccentric, but the outfit that you had on for this lunch with Lisa, I didn't love it. I don't know. It felt like you were trying a bit too hard. I don't know, y'all. I think that maybe if it had been a solid black and not that crazy animal print, it would have been cuter. Either way, girl, do you. If you like it, that's great. But anyhow, as they're sitting down for lunch, they are talking about Bronwyn's crazy schedule. And Lisa says, weren't you supposed to be in Milan this week? And Bronwyn says, well, I was supposed to, but then all the snow. So I ended up going to Paris for Couture week. And we find out that Bronwyn loves fashion. She goes on to say that she enjoys dressing like a Tim Burton character and she feels amazing. So we find out more about Miss Bronwyn's life. And she has 6 dogs, a teenage daughter, and a much older but very successful husband. So the age gap is quite large. She's 38, he's 65, and I said she's here to secure the bag. So now we cut right back to the day of Lisa's party, and Whitney and her friend are on their way. So Whitney says that she was surprised to get the invitation because she knows that Lisa's angry at her. And then Whitney adds that Lisa has not felt like a safe space in quite a while. Now, Whitney, I've always felt that your relationship with Lisa Barlow has always been uneven. You and Heather have always put Lisa on this pedestal. You view her as the cool girl, the head cheerleader, and Lisa knows that. I feel that you are expecting Lisa to be your new best friend, and that's not what it is. You're trying to force this closeness that just isn't there. And you get your feelings hurt every single time, and now you want to say that Lisa isn't a safe space for me. She never was. I feel like you forced Lisa into this role that she never wanted. Since season 1, you and your cousin Heather have been obsessed with Lisa's friendship and approval. The biggest reason why you guys always have issues with Lisa is due to the fact that Lisa could take or leave your friendship. She's really not that invested. So we cut to Whitney in her confessional, and she says that these last 6 months have been some of the best months of her life. She's been spending more time with her family. They just bought a new house. And I said, now hold on, because I noticed that in the Housewives handbook, the go-to move every time that money starts coming in is to upgrade the house and the cars. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love it. That's how you should do it. Enjoy your money, spend it. But I do find it a bit comical because I remember in season 3, Whitney and Justin were having money problems, weren't they? Didn't she say that they wiped out their savings account to build her businesses? Justin was unemployed. They were finally getting things back in order last season. And now all of a sudden they're buying a new house. I'm like, okay, well, obviously these Bravo checks are hitting and it wiped away all their debt and afforded them to buy an even bigger house. But good for Whitney. I'm happy to see it. I'm glad that their season of lack is over. But Whitney goes on to add that her businesses are flourishing, but when it comes to her friendships, it's a different story. But she continues on by saying that the last time she saw everybody together was in New York for the reunion and nothing got resolved. Now, Whitney can't seem too surprised that nothing got resolved at the reunion last year because the biggest issue was the whole mess with Monica. That dominated everything. So for her to sound surprised at the fact that the other issues that happened went unaddressed. I mean, girl, come on. We didn't really care about that. The main focus was, why was Monica a troll? Why did she come on this show? What were the motives? What was her intention? That's all that we wanted to hear. So Whitney and her friend arrived, and Lisa's reaction had me screaming. She was like, oh my gosh, Whitney actually showed up. I was thinking, well, Lisa, you did invite her and she is your castmate. So yeah, why wouldn't she? Now, Whitney, you know that you were petty and dead ass wrong Because how do you walk into that woman's party and you don't say hi to her? And Lisa was pissed. Lisa was like, that is so rude. She hasn't even said hi to me. She's saying hi to everybody else and not me. I just can't believe this. And Heather, you know you were being messy by asking Lisa if Whitney said hi to her. I said, girl, you obviously see that Whitney is avoiding Lisa. She has yet to go up to her and say hi, so why would you even ask that? So we see Heather introducing her friend Brittany to the group. And again, Brittany is going to be the newest friend of the show. And a quick side note, is it just me or does Brittany remind you of Leanne Locken from Real Housewives of Dallas? Because they look so much alike. The only thing is Brittany seems sweet. Leanne was crazy and also very thirsty and a wannabe. And I will never forget how she had a wedding with no food. For all my Dallas watchers, remember that? I think it was season 4. She finally got married to her man and they had that wedding reception and they were starving. They had no food. I said, girl, you could have kept this. How embarrassing. You're a Real Housewife and you can't afford to feed the people. Are you serious? But yeah, Leanne Locken was good and crazy. If they ever bring Dallas back, don't bring Leanne back because she was too much. And she was also the Gina of her franchise. And I'm gonna leave it right there. But anyhow, we get some backstory on Brittany. Brittany is a messed up Mormon, according to Heather, and she's also dating Donnie and Marie Osmond's nephew named Jared. And then Heather makes a joke saying that Jared is like the Prince Harry of Mormon culture. So now we find out that Brittany is actually single right now because her and Jared broke up. So now we cut to Brittany's confessional and she says that she's been on this crazy hamster wheel with Jared because they've only been dating for 8 months, but they've already broken up 16 times. And I'm like, girl, you do know that it's time to find a new man. Because 16 breakups and only 8 months of dating, you guys are not compatible. And also, I don't think that he likes you that much. Because any man who really wants you, they are not letting you get away 16 times. Are you trying to stick this out because Jared has some money? Because of who his family is? Is that what it is? I'm sure there are plenty of other rich, single Mormon men that you can find. I'm just like, yeah, girl, this sounds like a hot mess. Now, hands down, this next scene was one of the best scenes of the night. We see Mary and Bronwyn off to the side, and they're talking about fashion. Mary loves Bronwyn's style. Bronwyn also loves Mary's style, and they're bonding over that. So as they're talking, Brittany walks over to them, sits in the middle of them, and she already starts off wrong. She says to Bronwyn, oh, I love your costume. Mary and Bronwyn both said, girl, what? Bronwyn said, not a costume. Mary also shuts it down. She interjects and says, we don't do costumes over here. This is couture, honey. So now Bronwyn goes into great detail about how iconic her jacket is. She says, girl, this is YSL. And only 3 of these were made. I have one, Rihanna has one, and the third one is in a museum in Paris. But the way Mary's confessional had me screaming, Mary says she's talking about a costume when her fur coat looks like a German Shepherd. I said, girl, not a German Shepherd.
A costume?
No. Why is that fighting words?
Okay, see, Mary, because we don't wear costumes, we wear fashion.
Who is this?
That's so, like, fashion.
She's the one that looked like she had her costume. It looked like a German Shepherd coat.
And I'm not going to hold you, but that fur did look a bit dingy. It looked very cheap. It looked matted. I don't know what kind of fur that was. It looked like it was made out of squirrel or cat. I don't know. I said, Brittany, are you sure that that's fur? Because we saw earlier on at the party, she was telling somebody that the fur coat belonged to her grandmother. I said, girl, and what fur coat was that? But Mary's talking about Brittany took 17 German Shepherds to the groomers and dyed them burgundy. I said, not 17 German Shepherds. The visual had me on the floor. I said one thing about Mary has a way with words, and that's putting it mildly. So now here's where things go even more left, because Mary starts talking about how she has an office for her clothes, And Brittany blurts out that Mary has to be a hoarder. And Mary's like, no, let's not go that far. Let's not do too much now. And low key, Mary is a hoarder. She's just a hoarder with money and designer pieces. But Mary definitely is a hoarder. Brittany was not wrong about that. But Brittany, when it comes to Mary, you need to tread lightly and choose your words carefully. So anyhow, Mary tells this story of how it was hard growing up with 5 siblings, and before she can finish her sentence, Brittany interrupts and brings up how she was poor growing up. So Mary's like, no girl, I wasn't poor. That's your testimony, that's not mine. I wasn't poor, I didn't say that. Mary prides herself on the fact that she always grew up well and that she's rich now. She's always loved the finer things in life. She loves luxury and designer goods, and she makes no qualms about that. So if somebody were to even hint that her stuff is cheap or maybe she's broke, she's going to be pissed about that. So now she talks about how when she was younger, she used to put rolls in her purse because she was so hungry. So Mary's like, that's not okay. You don't put food in your purse. Mary was not trying to hear it. Mary said, you know what, girls, you have fun. I'm gonna be right back. Mary walks off and Brittany's like, I definitely pissed her off, didn't I? And I said, yeah, girl, you did. Now, while I could not stop laughing, I did feel bad for Brittany. You can tell that she was just trying to talk and have fun and get to know them. She was not trying to offend anybody. And the fact that she ended up pissing off both Bronwyn and Mary at the same time, I said, girl, if I were you, I would just stick to being around Heather and call it a day. So we see Meredith arrive, and now we cut to a flashback scene from 3 weeks ago. We see that Meredith is on bed rest, and Heather is over visiting her to make sure that she's okay. We learned from Meredith that she just came out of breast reduction surgery because she says that her breast tissue would not stop growing. She says she started off as a small C and then went all the way up to a triple D. And mind you, Meredith is in a brand new rental this season. And it looks gorgeous, it's huge, it's stunning. But I am curious to find out why Meredith loves rentals so much. Moving is so annoying. So the fact that her and Seth are moving every single year, I don't know how that's fun. But again, if they like it, I love it. So Meredith is telling Heather how she's still trying to figure out where she stands with certain people in this group because what went down in Bermuda last year really hurt her feelings. She says that everybody was gunning for her and it wasn't a good feeling. So now Meredith brings up last year's reunion and how the main focus was Monica, so the issues that she had with certain people got swept under the rug. So now she brings up this weird rift between her and Whitney and how it seems like Whitney is always stepping on her toes. So Meredith explains that she finds it a bit weird because everybody knows that she has a jewelry line, and then last year, Whitney launched her jewelry line, and then at the beginning of this year, she announced at the reunion that she wanted to launch some bath products, and now the same thing's happening again with Whitney also launching bath products as well. So pretty much, Meredith feels like Whitney is copying her. I honestly feel like Meredith shouldn't have said anything at the reunion about launching bath products. Don't announce anything until it's done. I don't believe in discussing premature plans about anything. You will see it when I'm there, when it's already happened, when the contract has been signed. You will not hear about anything a minute before that. I do feel like people get inspired, aka they want to copy, when they do hear you discuss premature plans and ideas. So Meredith goes on to say that everybody knows that her being in the bathtub and loving baths, that's her thing, and Whitney is pretty much attacking her. Now, Meredith, let's not get too dramatic. I don't think that Whitney's attacking you, but is there a form of some imitation? Yeah. But like I said a few minutes ago, next time keep your mouth shut and don't announce premature plans. So we jump right back into the party. And Lisa's telling all of her friends about Jack's mission. Remember all last year, they were prepping Jack for his mission trip to Colombia, and now he's there. But Lisa's running her mouth about how Jack has already been in Colombia for the last 8 months now. He's really found his purpose, and me and his dad and Henry are able to talk to him once a week through Facebook Messenger and through FaceTime, and it's really nice. But what's really great is the fact that there are so many hot restaurants, and he's already found 2 Michelin star restaurants that me and John want to go to when we pick him up. They were all like, Lisa, isn't he supposed to be there to get closer to God and help people out? Why are you talking about the hot restaurants in Colombia? And even Bronwyn jumped in because she said, this is not the Mormonism that I was raised in. I remember when my siblings went on mission trips and it was nothing about Michelin-starred restaurants. Like, I don't know what she's talking about, but okay. So now we get to know Bronwyn a little bit more, and we find out that her parents converted to Mormonism when she was, I think, 2 and 3 years old. And her and all her siblings were raised to be devout Mormons. So she says that they all went to BYU, but unfortunately, she got kicked out. Now, I read Bronwyn's bio, and it says that she got kicked out of BYU because she got pregnant. So I guess we'll hear more about that in later episodes, but that's the reason why she got kicked out of the school. So as the party's going on, we now see Meredith pull Whitney aside to have a conversation. Meredith doesn't even say hello, how are you? There's no hug. She starts off the conversation asking, so what's up with the bath bombs? So Whitney's playing dumb. She's like, wait, what? Bath bombs? What do you mean? And Meredith says, yeah, girl, what's up with the bath bombs? Because I find it funny that at last year's reunion, when I talked about launching bath bombs, now all of a sudden you go and do the same thing. So Whitney's still standing there looking confused, and Meredith reiterates that last year, Whitney launched a jewelry line, and now it's bath bombs, and she's tired of it. So Whitney says, Meredith, I have no problem with you. I feel like you're reading way too much into it. This feels like deja vu from last year. So now Whitney goes on to add that she loves Meredith as a friend and she's not trying to hurt her. One thing that I love and appreciate about Meredith is the fact that when she gets angry, she always gives you some good soap opera dramatics. So she says, if you were my friend, you would have picked up that phone and called me. So Whitney says, well, if you were a good friend, then you would have already known that I had sold bath bombs way before you even talked about them. They were sold in your stores. So Meredith is low-key gagged, and she says no. So as they're going back and forth, Angie K turns around, and we all know that Angie K loves a moment, and she loves to have any reason to go back and forth with Meredith. Now, a quick side note, Mary had me screaming once again, because we cut to her confessional, and she says, why are they arguing about bath bombs? I don't even like baths because I don't want a yeast infection. I said, Mary, what? Mary is truly one of a kind, and I love how you never quite know what is about to fly out of her mouth. So Angie K walks over to Whitney and Meredith as they're still going at it, and she's like, excuse me, may I please have a minute with Meredith because I also have some things that I want to get off my chest too. And we cut to Angie K's confessional where she says that last year Meredith was involved in a lot of side conversations regarding her marriage, her being a part of the Greek mafia, and encouraging somebody to sue her. Meredith is not here for Angie K whatsoever because she's waiting on Angie K to just start off the conversation. She's like, girl, what do you want? Why are you here? Why are we even talking? So Angie K opens up her Birkin and pulls out a scroll. Opens up the scroll and we see that it is a full-blown list of everything that Meredith has allegedly done to Angie K. Now, I'm not going to hold you, Angie K. While I have gotten on you in the past for being thirsty, this was everything. I couldn't stop laughing. The whole party turns around. They're like, does Angie K really have a scroll right now? Is that what's happening? Mary's commentary had me screaming. She goes on to say that Angie K is a hard worker with way too much time on her hands. So Angie's reading off all of her issues with Meredith, and she says, for alleging that I'm a part of organized crime, for encouraging somebody to sue me and take away my house. I have a family. Meredith was like, girl, are you serious right now? You are reaching. That never happened. I didn't do that. Like, let's stop. Now, while this scene was funny, can somebody please jog my memory again of what is the issue between Angie K and Meredith? It's always felt more like Angie K is more willing to forgive and forget, and Meredith, for whatever reason, wants to hold on to this grudge. I don't know why. Because I feel like, Meredith, if you could forgive Lisa, your best friend, for talking about you like a dog on a hot mic, I think you can forgive whatever Angie said to you at that reunion in season 3. I don't know. I'm still confused as to why Meredith hates Angie K so badly. Because when I tell you that Meredith really has no patience for her, the way she pays her dust every single time. But all in all, Angie, when you pulled that scroll out, that was iconic. So now Lisa calls everybody to the front because she wants to give a speech. She thanks everybody for coming. And then in the middle of her speech, she also calls out Whitney. She brings up the podcast and then she says, but Whitney, you and I will talk later. Now I said, Lisa, that was really petty of you because you don't have to do that. You could pull her to the side and say, oh, by the way, Whitney, sometime during the night, I do want to have a chat. But to sit up there and embarrass her in your speech. But now it's time for the seated dinner inside. And they open up the gates and we see these 2 beautifully decorated tables. There are place settings, letting everybody know where they're going to sit. Now, Mary was annoyed because Lisa had Mary sitting right next to Brittany. So Mary's like, I don't want to sit next to her. Can I switch seats? I mean, I don't want her putting rolls in my purse. Then she goes on to say that Brittany must have done this recently because obviously you don't have a purse when you're little. Now, Mary, speak for yourself, sis, because when I was a baby, I had little purses. But I said, Mary, it is not that deep. You will be okay sitting next to Brittany. Give her another chance. If Angie K could give you another chance when you were mean to her last season, surely you can give somebody else some grace. And like I said earlier, I don't think that Brittany meant any harm. I think that she just put her foot in her mouth because she was nervous. So anyhow, we see Meredith and Bronwyn connecting at the table, and they're talking about how they're both married to much older men, and they have stepkids who are around the same age. And we find out from Bronwyn that one of her stepsons is actually older than her. So just when you think that this actually might be a cute and fun, happy dinner, absolutely not. The mess already starts with Angie K and Meredith part 2. So Angie K is talking about the scroll, and Heather says from across the table that Angie K started things off on the wrong foot when she did that. So Angie K says, well, you told me that she wanted to talk to me. And now Meredith jumps in and she says, Angie, I already apologized to you multiple times. I'm not doing this with you again. I'm done. So now Angie K says that the only reason why Meredith is turning away is because she's guilty. So now Heather's like, Angie, will you stop? You resolved it. It's over with. Move on. So Angie K says, no, we did not resolve anything. She encouraged somebody to take my house away and sue me. Then she proceeds to say that she has a family. So Meredith really gets pissed and she says, Angie, leave me alone. You live your life and I'll live my life. So Angie K is quick with it because she says, yep, I'll live my life in the home that I own and you'll live your life in a rental. I said, ooh. And I said, I think it's safe for me to say that after Mary, Angie K is number 2 when it comes to the reads and the shades on this franchise. Because I didn't forget how Angie K tore Monica up at that reunion last year when she said, girl, you need to be worrying about your life and taking care of your 4 daughters, but you're out here riding around in that Range Rover that's under a carport. I said, oh, damn. She knows how to read. So Bronwyn jumps in and she's like, okay, can we draw the line right here? Let's just move on. Let's stop this. Let's have a nice night. And Angie says, absolutely, but I just don't want a renter talking about the home that I actually own. I said, well, damn. Angie K would not let up. She said, Meredith, I'm going to keep whacking you again and again and again.
I'm just scoot on over and let you whack him. Get him again. Get him for me.
Now, when the food came out, you guys already know that my mouth was watering. I love a good steak, and that piece of filet, I was drooling, okay? Salivating. Mary is too much because she comments that she tries to be vegan, and when she saw that piece of meat, all she could think about was how it's going to be stuck in her colon for the next 9 months. Then she goes on to say that people don't care about their health. I said, Mary, just let everybody enjoy their steak and mind your business. Mind your own plate, please. So here's where the drama kicks off. As they're eating and toasting, Whitney brings up that awkward speech that Lisa gave an hour ago outside where she low-key called out Whitney. So she wants to know what's going on because she feels like Lisa has a problem with her and a podcast. So Lisa says, I do have a problem because your podcast was about me. Now here's where I knew that this conversation was really about to go all the way left, because Whitney says, well, you're so self-absorbed that I'm not surprised that you would think that the whole podcast was about you. I said, now one thing about it, Lisa hates when anybody calls her out for being self-absorbed or self-centered. That is a huge trigger for her. So when Whitney said that, I said, girl, you really want to fight, don't you? So Lisa's defensive, and then she goes on to say that it's not about being self-absorbed, it's about having self-love for yourself. So now you have Heather jumping in, and she's like, that's completely uncool, and obviously she's on Lisa's side and not Whitney's. Now, Heather, seeing you at that table going so hard at Whitney on behalf of Lisa, and I'm not saying that you and Whitney don't have your own issues between you guys, but let's call a spade a spade. The real reason why you were so quick to get on Whitney because you wanted to gain favor from Lisa. Let's just be so for real. You still crave Lisa's validation. And it wasn't lost on me that you were sitting right next to Lisa too at this party. And I know that deep down inside you were thrilled about it. And like I touched on earlier in this recap, one thing about Whitney, she is a master in acting confused as to why you're upset with her. Because she starts asking Lisa, can you please tell me what your issue is with me? Because the podcast was 2 hours long and it wasn't all about you. So Lisa interjects and says, well, you talked about me enough. And do you want to say that you're sorry? You could start with that. And also, Whitney, if you're going to lie about me, then expect me to tell the truth about myself. You got on a podcast and you bashed me. So Whitney says that Lisa's angry that she wasn't speaking roses about her the whole time. And also, it's not that she's lying on Lisa. She's just telling everybody about her experience with Lisa, and that's not lying. So now Whitney goes on to say that Lisa is somebody where she gets upset if you disagree with her. And I'm not saying that that's not the case with Lisa. From what we've seen, Lisa is somebody who is a bit stubborn. She's a bit slow to apologize and own her behavior. But two things can be true at the same time. Lisa can be somebody who is self-absorbed and doesn't take ownership, but Whitney, you also don't take full ownership of anything that you do. There's always an excuse. You do stir the pot. You are messy. You do lie and add extra sauce on a story. So there's also that as well. And you do like to play dumb and act like you're confused as to why people are mad at you. So now Whitney says that if she doesn't kiss every part of Lisa's ass, Lisa considers that to be not a good friend. And then she adds that she's owned up to everything that she's ever said about Lisa. So now Whitney reveals that she was informed about Lisa being angry at her this week. So now Lisa's like, wait, this week? First of all, I only told 2 people about my issues with you. So that means that either Heather or Angie K opened up their mouths. So Heather immediately is like, look, girl, I didn't say a word. I'm innocent. I didn't say one thing to Whitney. My lips were sealed. And we know that Heather is not trying to ruin anything between her and Lisa. So now Lisa looks at Angie K and she's like, did you open your mouth? So Angie K is like, well, about what part? So I said, now, Angie, you're already caught, so you might as well come clean and just say, yeah, I told her everything. And trust and believe that production was on it. We see the flashback of Angie going to Whitney's new house a few days ago, and Angie K is spilling all the tea about what Lisa was saying about her. Again, Angie, you were being messy, and then for you to try to excuse it and say that, well, you want to let her know what was being said, Lisa was not trying to hear any of that. At one point, Lisa and Angie get into it. Lisa gets up like she's about to do something. Angie K said, girl, sit down. I can hear you just fine. Don't stand up and talk to me like that. But Lisa's really pissed because she feels like last year she had Angie's back 100%, and now this year Angie K seems to have Whitney's back more. Now, if I remember things correctly from last season, Lisa and Angie K's friendship has been on the rocks for quite some time because they were complaining about similar issues last season. But Angie K, as much as I like you, that was messy for you to go back and tell Whitney everything that Lisa told you in confidence. And a quick side note, it's obvious that Angie K and Lisa are still on bad terms now because as you guys see, Angie K packing Lisa and Meredith both up on Twitter the other day, I said, well, damn. So here's where things get progressively worse. Lisa turns around and starts screaming at Whitney, and it looked like at one point she threw something. I think she threw a knife or a fork at the wall. I was like, girl, what's going on? So now she's screaming that Whitney lied on her, and she lied on Meredith and Heather as well. You lied to me, and you lied on her and her. So now Lisa brings up how Whitney lied on her about sleeping with somebody else for Utah Jazz tickets. Whitney's like, I owned up to that. I said I'm sorry. I already admitted that I was wrong for what I said. But I did call you a villain and I stand in it. And I said, now, Whitney, if anybody is a villain on this show, it's really you. Because just because you talk in that baby voice and you smile and bat your eyelashes, you do start the most mess in this group. You do. It's undeniable. You have a track record of going back and twisting up a story, making it seem more salacious and worse than what it is, and then you step back and let all the drama unfold between everybody else. You deny your involvement in said gossip or drama, but then you still want to act like you're innocent. No, ma'am, you're the villain. So you have Lisa still screaming, and she says, if you want me to be your villain, I'll be your villain, bitch. Heather told the complete truth about Whitney. She says, I love Whitney, but one thing about Whitney, she spins the truth to make herself look good. Then she adds that it's incredibly frustrating and she can't stand it. And Heather, when you're right, because I've been calling it out since season 1. Very Ashley Darby coded. So now Meredith jumps in with her gripes and she says, Whitney, you accused me of lying about not going to my father's funeral. That was incredibly hurtful, especially coming from a friend. Now, Whitney, you had me all the way effed up when you did that. What was that, season 2? I really couldn't believe you. Again, girl, I don't know how you're calling somebody else the villain when that's you. So now Heather starts screaming about her issues with Whitney, how Whitney accused her of writing unauthorized material in her book last year. And now Meredith interjects once again, and she's also screaming, and she's like, and you accused Mary of being a cult leader and running a cult and being a predator. Like, how dare you? I said, my God. And I was low-key surprised that Mary didn't jump in and start screaming too, but she was over it. She was focused on eating her food. The way they were all yelling at her, she was getting it from every single direction. And I will admit that a small part of me felt a little bit bad for Whitney, only because you're getting ganged up on 3 against 1 at a dinner. Nobody would like that. And Lisa, while I understand your frustrations and your anger, why spend all this money on this party to ruin it by screaming and yelling. I just feel like you could have had this conversation another day. You could have pulled her outside, had a one-on-one with her, but to do all this screaming and yelling and cursing like this at this dinner that you paid tens of thousands of dollars for, why? So anyhow, you have Whitney sitting there and she's like, why are you guys all coming for me? This is a lot. Then she says, I would love to take full accountability for things that I've done, but you guys are all bringing up things from years ago. So Lisa says, well, you should take ownership for what you said about me on the podcast because I did give you grace. Now, Whitney low-key had Lisa gagged because she said, oh, really? What does your grace look like? I said, ooh. So Lisa says, well, with your healing journey, you act like you're morally superior than all of us, and I'm just being me. I'm not on the same journey as you. I don't need to explain my grace to you. We're on different journeys. So I don't know how Whitney took that as Lisa is now weaponizing her trauma against her. I said, girl, what? It's been 5 seasons of you in this healing journey and we're over it. We haven't seen anything be healed. We've seen no growth. So Lisa denies it. She says, I would never do that. I would never weaponize your trauma, okay? I didn't do that. That's not what I did, so don't say that. So now Whitney claims that Lisa shaded her through text. She told her to keep healing and that she was being sarcastic. And then she goes on to ask Lisa if Lisa wants to meet the healed Whitney. So she puts her middle finger up and she says, you, Lisa Barlow. Lisa wasn't having it. She said, you can go, you can leave, get out of my party, leave right now. And we see Whitney, her friend that she brought with her, and Angie K get up to leave. Now, Angie K, you clearly wanted a moment because why are you getting up? This argument had nothing to do with you. Yes, you did insert yourself by running your mouth, but why leave the party? Now you're about to be on bad terms with Lisa too. So Whitney screams that she's going back to her beautiful new home with her family, and they're going back and forth, her and Lisa. And as they're walking out the door, the cameras pan to the musicians because Lisa had a live band there. And when I tell you, they were staring like, what the F is going on? What were we paid to do? Because all these women have been doing is fighting. So now we pan back to everybody else at the table, and Heather's like, wait, why is Angie K walking out with them? I thought Angie was Lisa's girl. So Meredith turns around and she's like, you misread that one, honey. I was screaming. I said Meredith had one of the best one-liners of the night. But that's where the premiere episode ends, and then we see the season trailer. And when I tell you that we are about to be fed, because this season looks so good. SLC is really that girl. And there's nothing that anybody can do about it. I mean, they are really coming in strong. And this was a phenomenal premiere episode. But y'all, that was my recap. Thank you all so much for watching and listening on the podcast. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.